struggle of man against the elements, but also a race against time. Scores of emergency workers have used thousands of tons of shingle.
We pushed the beach up to form a bank, so that when the tide comes in, it rolls up the beach and just rolls back down again without taking too much of the stone away.
And all day they've been praying that it will be enough to protect the town of Selsey.
If the sea defence wasn't there, Selsey would end up as an island. So it must be a bit of an important job.
It's the hammerhead of cloud here that's indicative of some pretty stormy skies to come.
The weather forecast triggered 129 flood warnings on rivers, 25 in Kent and Essex. In Scotland, floodwaters reached the centre of Dumfries, while the River Severn at Gloucester burst its banks. The Gloucestershire Police helicopter found this Land Rover in the dark using its infrared camera. Two stranded men had called for help when they became trapped. The helicopter searchlight lit the scene for a fire brigade rescue boat that brought the men to safety from the roof of their vehicle. The River Severn had also flooded at Welshpool in Wales. This video was taken outside the farmhouse of Ian and Jane Lovell. As floodwaters rose that night, they found themselves cut off. For days he'd been rebuilding the sea wall here at Selsey. What Malcolm and no one else here knew was that 10 miles away on the Isle of Wight, they were experiencing an astonishing weather phenomenon. Severe thunderstorms on top of warm seawater created exactly the right conditions for spawning tornadoes. One of them had even been caught on video. Britain actually gets about 40 tornadoes like this a year, but capturing one on video is extraordinary, as they last only minutes and usually develop away from towns. Selsey's diggers were still working 24 hours a day on the 7th of January, as most of the town was asleep, and Malcolm Wright began his night shift.
It came on at 10 o'clock, and it was raining, thunder and lightning, which wasn't too bad. The thunder and lightning was, you know, quite calm for thunder goes, but then lightning got worse and the thunder was worse.
I've never heard a thunderclap like it. It was above my house, it sounded, and it was so loud, the whole house shook.
And a friend of mine had come down, and he turned up at 11:30 at night, having been held up on traffic. He hadn't had any in to eat. The local Indian restaurant, only 500 yards up the road, we went up there to have a curry. And we got in there, we ordered a drink, and we sat down on the corner, and we was chatting away. Not the usual Selsey weather, I'm afraid.
As I turned, there's a tremendous noise. The window came straight in. As I opened the door, with the force of the wind coming in, blew me straight at the door. The tornado just come from nowhere. I mean, if you could imagine an express train, I suppose it'd be similar to that. I mean, twice the sound of it. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
I can only describe it as if somebody was outside with a sledgehammer. I looked up and I could actually see the curtain just going with every shot, and within a split second there was just this horrendous smashing of glass. I can see that the wall's gone. Naomi's cot is teetering on the edge of this. What used to be the wall is now just this drop down into our next door neighbour's garden.
The tornado reached the centre of Selsey in a matter of seconds, leaving a path of devastation, including one of Patrick Moore's telescopes.
We were just about finished our meal when we found the wind was getting abnormally strong. And stronger and stronger, and then suddenly everything happened at once. A mighty rushing wind, everything began to shake, noise like machine gun fire, actually hail force. And then suddenly the door burst open with a tremendous bang. Into the centre of the room. So we dashed into the middle of the room and things pouring into the door. You see that pressure drop? This really is a genuine tornado. Absolutely no warning at all, like being under an air raid. Most extraordinary.
There's blood everywhere, and I looked on the wall and there was blood on the wall. I shakily dialed for the emergency services.
Thank you, Fire Brigade can help you.
Yes, there's a storm that's hit my house. I live in Selsey. Kind of half of my upstairs house has just disappeared. The glass has shattered over me.
Right.
Blood everywhere at the moment.
Right, OK, we're on our way to you.
When we got to the actual property, you could see that there was something amiss. And then when we put the lights on, of course, you could see there was no end of the house. It had gone.
Fire brigade.
Hello, we've been struck by lightning.
A gentleman's windows are all blown out and he's got water coming through his roof. We think we've been struck by lightning because the chimney's come off.
There was over 1,000 calls. The people making the calls were very upset. They were shocked, they were scared, they were frightened, and they wanted assistance.
I don't know if you've heard any other reports. We just had either a tornado or something come through here. A major part of the chimney breast is actually just suspended at a very precarious position.
It just went ballistic. It just came in from nowhere.
Huge, great big hailstones, and the windows just started to, like, go.
Undescribable. It's like something you see in a film.
It was really, really powerful. The pressure that it created was unbelievable.
We've lost all of the back of the roof. The wind went straight in through the flat kitchen window and straight out the front window.
It was just horrendous. And it was in, what, about 8 seconds.
What do you say is a mini tornado? Knocking hundreds of tiles off the roof.
It looked like a bomb had hit the place. There was tiles missing from everywhere. There was people running around.
We've been hit by a thunderbolt. The garages at the end of the garden have blown up.
We've also heard that you've had a mini tornado.
Is that what it is?
We're en route to Selsey on mass at the moment.
It's the worst journey in I've ever had.
Dangerous structure, East Street, ladders. Ladders. What have you got?
East Street.
It's like the High Street pool. There's rubble everywhere.
It was quite an experience going through the High Street. Quite a lot of debris still.
I'm at tree.
Whatever we were going to at the time, we weren't really sure. We knew that it was fairly severe.
At the height of the incident, we had a region of 150 firefighters down at Selsey, 20 fire engines, 4 special appliances.
An incident command unit joined the growing number of rescue vehicles in Selsey. It's designed to coordinate the biggest of disasters.
There'll be log calls. We can look in there for data about water supplies, identify where the calls are, in this particular case where the tornado took its path.
Hello, Fire Brigade, no one at Selsey. Yeah, go ahead. It's West Ham's caravan site. Oh dear. Their front hair's been flattened. Fire Brigade, got one for you. Yeah, go ahead. It would appear the chimney's come through the roof. There's some sort of gas leak.
The fire brigade worked through the night, making the area safe.
By the time that the sun was coming up in the morning, then we could literally see just how extensive this was, and you could see that it was more of a salvage operation than a rescue operation.
Remarkably, the tornado had claimed no lives, but in daylight the path of destruction was clear. 1/5 of all properties in Selsey was damaged, and repairs were to cost £2.5 million. Jeremy Wern alone had a repair bill of £48,000, but he was lucky his family hadn't been in the house with him when the tornado struck.
When I left at the beginning of that week, it was quite appalling weather conditions. On the night that the tornado actually struck, I was quite a way away. I was selfishly enjoying the milder weather.
Last night's tornado started off the Dorset coast near Bournemouth, gaining strength as it moved eastwards. It caused damage to the Isle of Wight before smashing into Selsey.
When I woke up the following morning, I turned on breakfast news on the television.
1,000 homes were damaged as the tornado ripped in from the west.
And I can remember being totally stunned at the images that were coming out from the screen.
It was all over in a devastating 2 minutes.
What at first I thought was very sad, somebody had had damage to their house. The realisation dawned that, in fact, I recognised the wallpaper as being ours. And I will never forget the emotion that went through me at looking at the house and seeing the devastation. But of course, in that shot, there was no sign of Jeremy.
I think I was immensely lucky. The noise of the windows getting smashed. I've got to go now, honestly.
And then what happened?
I got out fast.
I've had my 15 minutes of fame. I don't want it to happen again, thanks.
There's just nothing like it. Nothing like it at all. With the force of the wind coming through there, I was forced out of the cab.
I had a few bumps on the head, but that was about it. I mean, a little bit of mental damage, I think, but I mean, apart from that.
People say, can you predict tornadoes? Answer, no, you can't. You don't know where it's going, don't know when it's going to stop, or what path it's going to take. My weather vane has survived, I'm glad to say. What I didn't see was the second observatory. In point of fact there, the roof had been taken completely off, and the wall that separates the garden from the next one, hello, that had been blown down. Gosh, isn't it? Had that been 20 yards further east, it would have gone right through the house, and that would have been total and utter disaster. So Selsey's back to normal. I say, we don't want another tornado, thank you. One will do.
Patrick Moore's observatory is now being repaired. However high-powered his telescopes might have been, they couldn't have seen the tornado coming. Improved weather forecasting, though, did give the emergency services advance warning of the high winds and the flooding, so that they could respond better to the most extreme weather conditions for nearly a decade. But the New Year storms caused more than £300 million worth of damage. And sadly, more than 30 people died.
The predictions of the way we would live at the end of the century, did any come true or were they all complete rubbish? Griff Rhys-Jones investigates next on BBC One.
One thing that has changed is the name of the restaurant. It's now the Selsey Tornado Tandoori Restaurant.